Hello, hello. Hey, Mary. How is it going? Welcome, welcome. Lois, hello. As you are popping on, as always, say hello. Say hello, how did he do? And we are going to get going in a minute. Hey, Marilyn, Marianne. Hello, hello. How is everybody's first Tuesday of the month? Gail, hi. Everybody have a good day? Oh, I don't have my watch on. I'm going to give it a minute or so and then we will get started. Good. Everybody's having a good Tuesday. I am just working on final things for Crop on the Cape. We leave next Wednesday. Shipped all of our boxes today of all of our inventory. And now just a few last minute things. Phew, a lot of work, but we are going to have fun. So, anyways, today, we are going to talk about a technique. It could be a focal point or it could be a background. It could be either, but we are going to use distress ink. We are going to use stencils and we are going to use clear embossing powder. We're going to heat that up. All right, and this here, this tag, hey Renee, is the sample of the finished product. So I've already got one kind of started. So what I did was, this is a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 piece of, it's probably Nina 100-pound solar white cardstock, and I taped it to the back of the stencil because I don't want to have any edges. I don't want to have stencil edges or tape marks or anything. So I just taped it with low tack tape on the back. And I am going to get started and I'm going to ink blend. And I am going to use my go-to colors for ink blending when I demo. And that is picked raspberry. And this is just regular distress ink. You could also do this with distress oxide. You could also do this with anything that you ink blend with. If you ink blend with Lawn Fawn inks, use Lawn Fawn inks. If you ink blend with archival inks, use archival. We aren't doing anything with water, so it doesn't need to be a water-based ink. It just needs to be something that you can blend with. So here we go. All right, I like to put my pink right down the middle. So that's where I'm going to start. Right in the middle. I should have gotten my sticky mat out because that would have been very helpful. But alas, I am not that prepared. All right. We are going to come back to pink, so we'll leave that there. And then this is mustard seed. And we are going to ink blend over here with that. And then when you overlap the mustard seed over the picked raspberry, you get a little bit of orangey. orangey business. So we'll blend that in right there. And then the last color that I'll be using is Twisted Citron. And I'll be blending down here in this other corner. I think when you blend the green and the Twisted Citron and the picked raspberry, you kind of get a purpley color. All right, so then I like to go back in with the pink because some of the pink or the picked raspberry gets a little covered up, so we don't want to jip our pink. All right. Okay, so we've got our ink blending. Well, pretty much where I want it to be. You can blend more or blend less, be light-handed, heavy-handed, however you prefer. But we are going to, Mary's asking, do I use re-inker ink on my ink pads? I have not ever, well, okay, there's one ink pad that I have re-inked. I have never re-inked any of my Distress ink pads except for one. And that was the original one that I bought, which was Walnut Stain. These are just the way I've never re-inked them. They're just as juicy as they always have been. I've never had to. The only one I ever, like I said, had to re-ink was the Walnut Stain, and that was the very, very, very first one I ever bought. So you can only imagine how long ago that was. Okay, so we're going to leave our stencil right where we have it here. And what we are going to do is, hey Vicki, we are going to take, I use the Wow embossing pad. I like it because it's slow drying and also because the pad part is spongy. And so for some of the techniques that I like to use, it makes it easier to get the embossing ink, this technique especially, down into the crevices, I guess, you know, of where the stencil is, because the stencil is going to sit higher up than your paper, and you want your embossing ink to get on your paper. Okay, so like I said, we're leaving our stencil right where we have it, and then I'm just going to smush, smush, smush embossing ink. And like I had just mentioned, the spongy pad makes it a bit easier to do this, and I want to make sure that I get really good coverage. So the way that I do that, and you really can't see what I'm doing, is I tilt my head to the side so that the light reflects off of the wet ink, so that I can make sure that I've got all the places covered. All right, so again, I like this one also because it's slow drying, so it gives me a little bit more time. I'm using clear embossing powder, clear, clear, clear. And then I am going to take the stencil off, carefully remove my tape. You can see how gently I just threw that stencil over to the side. So gentle. Oh, my tape is sticking. Being a little fussy, ladies. I need to be able to see it. Hold on. All right. So I've got the tape off, and now I'm just going to sprinkle the embossing powder all over because we did the full background. So I'm sprinkling my clear embossing powder all over. I'm using my paper instead of the cloud funnel tray because the paper's bigger for this particular technique, but I want to make sure that everything is covered. Now, if you were looking at this and you saw that there was some embossing powder sticking where it's white. You might want to, excuse my arm reaching across, take a really thin brush and paint, you know, brush it off. I don't see any in there, which is kind of a miracle, which is why I had this brush sitting right here, because usually I do get a little embossing powder sticking. So I'm going to put all my extra back into the container, and I'm going to close it because, as you know, I'm a klutz and that will spill guaranteed if I leave the lid off. Okay, so now we are going to heat emboss this. Oh man, one of my dies went flying. I'll probably never find it. Okay. All right, so we're just going to take our heat embossing tool and watch the magic happen. Trying to pick it up so you can see my favorite part, where it starts to turn shiny when it melts. Try not to burn my finger off. Oh, it's about to start melting. Any questions while we're waiting? Are you guys wondering where my die flew to? Because I am. It's really cold down here in my basement, so it's taking a little bit longer for this to melt. But it should start any second now. Mary, you have a lot of faith. I don't have so much faith that I'll find it, but I hope I do. It's not, at least it's not tiny. It was a big round one. Come on, what is going on here? All right, here we go. Let's go. Can you see it starting to melt over here? This is one of the mosaic tile stencils. We do have it in stock at the store. Good grief. There we go. Maybe because I was holding it up. Welcome, welcome. If you're just joining us, popping on, say hello. Don't be a lurker. Usually I don't like to hold my heat tool so still, but that's the only way it's melting. go. Somebody tell a story. I don't know why this is taking so long. Unfortunately, we can't move forward with the technique until this is done. It's almost like watching paint dry. Sorry. Oh, so who that's with us tonight is going to be in the store cropping tomorrow? Wednesday is one of our big days in the crop room. It's usually pretty full. Chihuahua. You're gonna be there, Mary. Vicky's gonna be there. Hey, Kim. Kim's gonna be there. All of our regulars. And then don't forget, this Saturday, we've got a scrappy chat at 9:30 right here on this same YouTube channel. And I know for a fact that Renee's been in the store checking in all kinds of new things that you ladies are going to want. Renee will be there too. Well, that's good news. Yes, your Easter Michigan peeps are there. They sure are. Maybe I'll need to get myself a new embossing tool because, whew, this is like crazy town. We're close. We're close. Vicky wants to know what new stuff. Well, Renee's going to have to let you know what she's checked in so far. But I just saw lots and lots of boxes when I was there yesterday. Marianne, you need to make 9 birthday cards by Saturday. You better get busy. And hopefully your embossing tool isn't as slow as mine if that's what you're going to need to use. Lord. You see how close I'm holding my heat gun to this? I never, never, never recommend that because you'll scorch your paper, bubble your embossing powder, all sorts of horrible things. So this is a fluke. I don't usually hold it this close. I don't know if it's because my embossing powder is old. I don't know. I don't think it's that old. And I can't imagine that embossing powder goes bad. I'm gonna have to look into that, huh? I just to make sure everything is melted here, or we are going to have problems. Okay, I think. Oh, one more spot. Oh, good grief. I think you're right, Mary, but I have to tell you, this is a pretty new heat tool, and it was the one that Mr. Holtz recommended. I haven't had it very long. Renee just got it for me, ordered it for me. Okay, good griefy grief. Okay, here we go. That's as good as it's gonna get. All right, so it looks really nice. I will say I did a pretty good job staying out of the cracks, but wow. All right, so now that this is all melted, and the embossing powder, what it does is it creates a resist. So what we're going to do now is take some, this is brushed corduroy. Black would look really good. I kind of wanted this to look like grout because this looks a lot like tile. Lord, I think I better go to bed. So what we're going to do is we're just gonna heat blend. Oh my gosh, ink blend right over everything. All right. We're going to take our blending brush and we are just going to fill in all the space where the stencil was that we didn't heat emboss. We're just going to go over what we've embossed as well because, like I just said, it creates a resist. So the embossing powder is plastic, right, when it melts. So what'll end up happening is all this ink that we're smearing all over will just wipe off of that part. All right, so what I will do is take my very well-loved flour sackcloth here and just give a little scrub. And see, you can see some of the places where the embossing powder didn't heat up all the way. I might be able to fix that. But there you go. Look at that. Doesn't it look like a tiled background? Fun, right? So you just use your stencil and you ink blend, then you leave it on, and then you use the embossing ink and clear embossing powder right over the same, right? And then when you take it off and you heat emboss it, then you just stencil in the spaces. And that is our technique for today, using Distress ink, using clear embossing powder, and this particular stencil was a Stuff by Belle stencil, but you can use any stencil your little heart desires. And like I said, you could just put a sentiment on this and it would be a lovely card, or you could use it as a background, put some die cuts over it, some cut stamped images, anything like that. Does anybody have any questions? Of course, all these products are available at Scrappy Chic. So if there's anything you need when you go into the store tomorrow, grab it up. All right. Well, I'll give it a sec, and then if nobody has any questions, I will remind you again that we have Scrappy Chat on Saturday, 9:30, here on our YouTube channel. We'll be showing lots of new things. And then, like I mentioned, Renee and I are getting ready to leave next week for Crop on the Cape, where we will certainly be posting all sorts of behind the scenes and little videos of what's going on there, so that you feel like you are there with us. All right. All right. No questions. Thank you very much for joining me. Sorry, my embossing gun took so stinking long. And have a great rest of your evening, and make fun stuff tomorrow if you're cropping, or even if you're not cropping and you're making fun stuff at home. Have a good time doing it. I will be working. So have fun for me too. All right, everybody. Good night. Adieu. We'll see you soon.